said, my name is Justin. I'm an artist. I'm really broad with that term. I'm also a married man. Been married now going on 5 years.
Damn.
I got a lovely Trini wife. She's real good to me. Being a content creator as an artist, I make content on Instagram. I make like funny videos with my wife. I make music as well. I do hip hop. I can draw really well. So it's like I got a lot of things going for me, and it's kind of like I'm real indecisive. Always have been that way my whole life. So it's kind of like I got so many things I'm juggling that I just can't find the right one to keep.
Right.
I think right now being a content creator is really good because my wife is really involved, like in my videos, in my artistry. And she's promoting me to do it. And it's like I know earlier you were talking about YouTube and making video essays. My wife is like really into that stuff. That's why I asked you about it. It's good to have a strong woman behind me, especially a black woman that's gonna push you to be better.
Facts.
And be all that you can be. Just happy, man.
Thank you.
Life is good. So.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And what you got?
My name is Anthony. Tech and media entrepreneur from Jersey. So when you truck out here, the schedules on the weekends, it'll be a little wild. But I'm happy to be here. That's it.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
I'm Mike. I'm a filmmaker. Currently working on a project in post-production and pre-production on another project right now. Who I am, I guess, a guy on a journey trying to find balance, like in life, a bunch of certain things. Trying to find that middle sweet spot. That's what I try to strive to be in life, is balanced. So I guess I'm on that steady journey trying to figure that out.
What's up?
My name is Boogie, and basically, because I'm from the Bronx, everything about me is dedicated to the city I come from, and everything I want to do in my life is mostly for and informed by that city. So that's every time I've lived outside New York a bunch of times, and they always just call me, oh, that's my boy Boogie from the Boogie Down, so it just stuck. So basically, what I am, and I've taken a lot of time to try to get the answer to this question is, I've come to understand that I am the masculine principle of the original people left in life, which is knowing that, people melanated color, we were the first people on the earth, and we're broken down into two principles, the feminine and the masculine. I am of the masculine principles, and what I do is I nation build, and above all else, I like to preserve and perpetuate the movement of life and all things in it. And my dedication to doing that is also by means of film and by running a vegan food service in which I could just outreach and touch people and get people to combine taste with smarter eating options. So
Word.
basically, that's my
I like that. Cool.
Miller. So I am a health and wellness coach. I currently partner with individuals in helping them to get on their journey and help them to kickstart their journey, and hopefully along that process kind of stay with them as long as possible. I do think of it as a partnership because that's what it is. I'm never one to kind of dictate to somebody in terms of what they should do or what they shouldn't do, because everything is a little bit different when it comes to that. I do look at wellness as a holistic standpoint, so it is mind, body, and spirit. You can't overlook one over the other. Who am I? That's a really deep question, and I'm just gonna go with what's really been on my spirit lately, which is that I'm whole and I'm love. So.
Yo, my name is Jerry. I'm an artist. I'm an educator. I consider myself to be an interdisciplinarian, and I use many different mediums to create, to tell my story, which more times than not centers on blackness, black identity, in varying aspects. I'm a musician, I'm a vocalist, I'm an orator, I'm a photographer, documentarian. We kind of mentioned offline, as I said, I'm from Arizona. I'm a world away from here. My father's from around these parts, but for me, I moved here about almost 4 years ago now. And to be here, to be in a place, in a space that is majority, predominantly black, is not the experience that I had growing up. And so for me, to be black here in Brooklyn specifically, and to be an outsider and to I have been finding ways to give back to this community that I love and that I appreciate, and that's been through my art, through documentarian aspects, whether it's through writing, storytelling, photography, preserving this culture that and hip hop culture that has given so much to me throughout my entire life, and so finding ways to give back and pour back into this community that's given me so much in the time that I'm here, and even before being here in this space. Who am I? I think intersects greatly with what I do. Hip hop. Shout out to the Bronx. 1520 Central Avenue. Like, hip hop is something that raised me, birthed me, especially coming from where I'm from, and kind of looking over and seeing how much it has impacted the way that I dress, the way that I talk, the way that I think it has informed a great deal of just my identity. From culture to education, like so much came from the music. So I don't know. I think like I am an artist, I am an educator, and even before I used those terms or had the language to identify those are things that I feel like I was already doing. Only to now to arrive in a place where I can say definitively, this is who I am, this is what I do, whether it's working in my professional life or working on the streets and connecting with the people.
Our stories, the world really looks like and is built off of our experiences, our stories, our point of view, and in so many more instances, our pain. So, and we've all heard this saying a million times, but it's so true. And it's like whoever controls the images controls the mind.
Yeah.
So, which is why like I've always felt it's so important for representation. Like, I'm born in the late 80s, so like the 90s was my decade for all my impressionable like images, and I'm so thankful because like that's the decade where black masculinity was at its peak. Like, we had Jordan, we had Tyson, we had Martin, we had Will Smith, we had Denzel in his prime, we had The Rock in wrestling, like, everywhere you look, prime time, Deion Sanders, like, everywhere you look was in every realm of life was like a black superhero, like, and even like, and like, I know me, this is my brother, we always talk about it, because you being 4 years older than me, like, I could give a shit about the Cosby Show, and I've always felt that way. And we fight about this day by day, but generationally, that wasn't my first family I saw in wealth on TV. For me, it was Will Smith and them, like, the Bankses, Fresh Prince. So it's like, I respect everything that, the Cosby Show did, but it was just a bit tailored for my generation. So across the years, it let me know, like, yo, listen, these stories and these images and these examples are so important, because on the opposite, you got movies on movies and shows on shows about, like, alpha type white males, playing offense in life. Everything they do, they just get to go and play offense. You have movies like Top Gun and Con Air and all other types of movies where it's just a bunch of, white men in their natural element, just going through life. They're not being super, they're just going through things and just doing it so naturally. And the things that a lot of us have to fly to, like just normal lives. Like, Chris Rock said it in one of his stand-ups, it's like, yo, listen, in my neighborhood is me, Mary J. Blige, Tiger Woods. I'm one of the best actors ever, comedians ever. This is the greatest golfer ever.
And the guy's a dentist.
And the white guy who lives here is a dentist. Like, you feel me?
Yeah.
So it's just like realizing, exactly.
He
He said, like, yo, the black man has to fly to things that other people can just walk to.
Yes.
So really, it's like, all right, back to the original question. It's like, with these images and knowing that so much of how we are represented, our demographic, everyone here that's in this circle right now, has become like so much watered down from like what it was. And I'm not just talking about in the sense of us all being gangsters and killers like in movies like Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society. It's knowing that we need that same notoriety and that same like lens on our real life. But as even this conversation shows us, there's so many different versions of the black man, like past, present, and future. without sacrificing your demeanor, your alpha male, your willingness to protect your family, you can still be a creative thinker. You can still be a big lover. You can still be so many things.
Did you realize this recently as an adult, or as it was happening, you was watching these TV shows and you said, yo, Will Smith or this family and Martin or Jamie Foxx, those sitcom shows?
To be honest, I think I started noticing it once I started seeing it dismantled. You know, I started seeing like so many different portrayals of like so many, you know, for instance, like another hot topic is like so many black males like being effeminized, you know, or in situations like bringing back like the theme of like the 70s, which was like the black exploitation films, in which you had a strong black man who was a vigilante, but that was a black man who refused to commit to a black woman. You know, like that's what all those films are about. And it fills us with delusions of grandeur, like, yo, we can fight the system and we can go ahead and we can win. We're not gonna win using those things, and we're damn sure not gonna win if we're gonna just disassociate from our women in the process. So it starts to create a situation and you start glorifying things that are like paramount of devaluing our family structure. Anytime in history that we were good as a people, family was of a paramount, and any social engineering has been directed on dismantling that family construct. So that's why once I started seeing things differently and like just watching different films and start seeing different portrayals, and no matter how subtle, and it started getting me so upset, like I want to see this for myself. I got upset that Blade was the only black superhero available, or like Black Panther was there, but I had to read about him and surface for him. And X-Men, it was only Bishop, and he had like one small like character arc. I'm like, yo, listen, this is no sense. And then the more you start reading and seeing shit like with Superman, and seeing like, yo, Superman is really should be a black man. He gets his power from the sun, like, and he's of another alien. He's of another race, and he's above like the minutia of humankind, and he has a natural kindness and care for human nature that his race is not necessarily historically known for.
Yes.
You know, so that's basically what informs like.
It's like Magneto
Is Malcolm X and and Martin Luther King.
Professor,
It's based off of that,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And exactly like you said, Malcolm X is Magneto talking about, listen, not even saying anything bad. It's like, yo, listen, man, I understand like y'all cool or whatever, but if we really talking about it and we just go underneath the skin, we kind of could do this better than y'all. We could do that better than y'all, and y'all over here bothering us.
Yeah.
You realize if we just all came together, that it would be a different story for y'all. And that's what he did. And meanwhile, Professor X is just like, oh, listen, man, we need to just be working with these people, man. We got to show them that we could be good.
Yeah, Professor X would say they just scared of us.
Right. You know, we need to show them. And no matter how many times he keeps trying to show them,
They don't
it
want it,
keeps on happening the same exact way.
Even the people that they saved,
right,
and it helped,
have gone back.
We're still in fearful of that,
Exactly. So it's all of this thing that lets me know, like, listen, these images are so important. There's a certain self-esteem that comes with things, and the things that we watch chip away at this self-esteem we have. Even like in the ways you don't notice, you see a commercial and it's like 3 black girls and it's 3 white girls and there's one little girl in the background, like playing with them, like, hey, I'm just happy to be here. That kind of could sit into the mind of a young child watching that. So my whole thing is like all those negative things they do subliminally to fuck with our images or to mess with our images, I want to do that and turn it on its axis and put positive images in the minds of, you know, young and old people of color in this country. And that's
Film is one of the most
as the media is though it affects everything. Media, advertising, radio, sports, all of it. That's what we are glued on our phones. We're watching things. Everyone has a Netflix subscription. Everyone has an HBO. We're watching content always. So if we can control content, we can start controlling a lot of these, you know, a lot of these perceptions. So, and that's for me is where it all came from.
That's true. Sure.
What's that thing?
No, I mean, it's true. If you think about like Black Panther, for example, when they interviewed people in Korea and they talked about how they never saw like the imagery of a black person portrayed like that.
Wow.
And how they were like, oh, like this is different. And we don't really think about it from that perspective. And it's that, you know, Black Panther is not the first black superhero at all. However, it was extremely pivotal for this momentum that we're seeing right now for Black content creation. Because we look at Issa Rae, we look at all these other people out there who are just, there's like show after show after show. If you check out HBO right now, they have show after show after show now that is being created for us, by us. And that's powerful.
And not just pigeonholed into one genre, you know. There's a range coming, you know what I'm saying? There's definitely a revolution coming where like we are taking the screens back, you know what I'm saying? And like showing our views on a bunch of different things.
You see that Netflix ad about that?
The strong back lead.
Yeah.
Strong back end. I kind of want to play devil's advocate with that though too. Do you also feel as though, as true as that is, that it's also a commodification of blackness, right?
So
you have an industry and a corporation that has finally recognized, right, the monetary value in black narratives, right? And now you got cats that are hopping on, you know, the proverbial bandwagon of cashing out on blackness. Whereas we've always been here, we've always been committed to telling these, you know, very, you know, important stories, but we've had to fight for the representation, right, this whole time. And so now it's like, yo, Black Panther sold over, it hit the $1 billion, you know what I'm saying, jackpot. So now we need to like flood with black stories, you know, and so like that's kind of where it's like it's the balance of it, and it's very.
I think that's, as long as we can get control of the situation. Like to me, like from this, like I know Michael B. Jordan just started a production company up. Like to me, like that has to start now. Like
the ownership.
The
gotta own our masters.
Like all that has to happen now.
You know what I'm saying?
Like I know. My bad. I know for a lot of people, Floyd Mayweather gets a lot of like flack because of, you know,
he's the
what
truth,
he
the way in
does
the life,
outside of the ring. But
he's the truth, though. He's the truth.
The way he handled his business is the way I feel like all black creators should handle their business.
Why don't you talk about as far as how he handles his business?
Like
I know a little bit about it.
Like so, like everything he does is the partnership. You know, like the way he put together his promotion company, he's the promoter, he promotes himself.
He originally had a contract.
He
had to buy himself out of it.
He had to buy himself out. Like he controls every aspect. His company is actually spending the ad money alongside Showtime. They're putting the budgets up. Like so that's the reason why he could come back with $600 million payday.
And on top of that, it's not only just the business. Like Floyd Mayweather, you go on a tangent all day. It's like he's like the example of when God-given talent meets hard work. Like, cause that's where you get Michael Jordan, that's where you get Kobe Bryant, that's where you get Stephen Curry's. When that doesn't happen, you get Allen Iversons, you get J.R. Smiths, you know, where you're just super talented, but maybe your dedication to that hard work is just not the same. You know, the Kobe's, the Mikes, the Floyd Mayweathers, they're madmen. So aside from his craft, you couldn't beat him in the ring. That no matter what you want to say about him at his craft, you were not going to beat him at the ring. Why? Because you were not going to outwork him. No one worked harder than this man in that sport. No one. He will be at the club and leave at 4 o'clock and go run and go to the gym and go do that religiously.
I just want to like touch on that. It makes so much sense because like you know how like you would like this is all about like Black Power, right? And like Black rights. Like there came a point in time like a couple months ago where like I was really disgusted with like Netflix and like Hulu. A lot of these like network channels because like when you go on like the main page, every advertisement for a movie or a show has a white lead actor or just white people in general grouped up. And it's like there'd be about like 20 pictures of like a movie poster and maybe 2 of them have a black person. You know, and like there's a lot of shows on Netflix that are like really good. Like there's a show called Dallas, which I really want to see with Jeff Daniels.
I heard about it.
But I don't want to watch it because it's nothing but white people in that cast. I mean, it's not even like I'm not even trying to seem I'm not even trying to seem racist for what I'm saying, but I'm just like it's just so like it's hurtful to not see how people lift it up. You know, and it's like it's even to me it's more disgusting that now it's like black people being lifted up now just to be monetized. You know, and it's like I don't like that. I feel like we have like a natural talent. We've always had that power. You know what I'm saying? And like earlier you had said something about how like you know like the stuff that you eat can affect your emotions and like the you know like the person you are. And like before I left my house, right, I was just sitting on like my chair and I'm dressed. You know, I got my cologne on. I brushed my beard up. My you know, looking good. You know. I do it for my wife though. I'm trying to get jealous a little bit, you know? It's like, before I leave, she's looking at me, she's like, yo, babe, why you look so sad? We look so tired, you know? I'm like, yo, babe, honestly, I just gotta go outside. I need some sun on me. You know,
Word.
and then it's like it's
Yo,
crazy because you
exactly.
mentioned how like the sun really like it feeds energy, being around like positive things really uplifts you. And it's not even like my house is sad. I have an amazing house, but I just know like being outside, it just really lifts me up. You know.
Absolutely.
Real quick, you had a point, right?
Well, in regards to like controlling that, like the vision and stuff, I think nowadays there's a lot more platforms that allow for you to be a little bit more in control. You know, so that's one of the things I'm trying to do is develop a network where a lot of the content there is our content. You know, and in this day and age, I mean, it's like we spoke about before, it's going to take some run-up time to build that audience, but eventually I want to take that audience and bring them to a targeted place where you can see this type of stuff. You know, it's like so much competition. Like Netflix's, this shit, HBO, all of that is amazing. You know, but like you said, they commoditizing that. You know, so it's like, damn, we have to be able to control our own platform, our own networks.
But that's also interesting too, right? And I think that this is not a new awakening for companies and networks. The fact of the matter is that black buying power is in the trillions.
Absolutely.
Always happens.
And this always has been.
Yeah.
And so it's not that, I don't think it's that they are making money off of it now for sure, but I feel like that has more to do with our awakening. And not so much, because they could have, and I say this from the advertising perspective, because in a past life I was trying to break into that industry, right? And so there was this huge thing about, before Apple or any type of tech company started talking about diversity and inclusion, advertising's been talking about it. And that was a part of how I was trying to break into it through an actual organization that was that gave me experiences that executives were saying that we didn't have as people of color, right? So it's one of those things, and the reason why I say this is because I remember specifically going to an agency during my internship, and they had a huge agency, and then they had this one small internal agency inside the bigger agency that was purely for Hispanic representation. And I remember specifically that it was a room full of people of color, young men specifically, and they showed us this McDonald's commercial. And it was like them on the rooftop playing DJ and all this other shit, and we were just like, yo, what is this? What is this? And so you think about things like, I think it's hard to say, but I feel like going back to like Black Panther, right? How excited we got as a people, that made them excited to see, okay, well, this is gonna work. And it's very interesting to see that. And going back to what you said about Superman, and it really brought me back to that day, and I never forget this. I was sitting in an office, a corner office of a black female VP, and it was me and two of my homeboys in the internship, and she said to us, she said that for you as young black men, you have to be Superman at what you do, because they will hire 10 mediocre white boys before they hire one of you.
Right. And it's always, I mean, and that's your mother, your grandmother said you gotta work 10 times as hard,
Right.
twice as hard.
Yes.
You have to, like, you know, bring back to the quote, we gotta fly to the things other people could walk to.